Hello, and welcome to today's 40th webinar in the On the Move webinar series, Leveraging Goods to Person Automation Strategies, brought to you by Honeywell Intelligrated. I'm Tracy Niehaus, Director of Marketing for Honeywell Intelligrated, and I'm your moderator today. We have just a few announcements before we begin. Please note that this presentation's audio is provided by phone number or through your computer sound system, so be sure to turn up your computer's volume. You may ask an online question at any time throughout today's presentation in the Q&A feature along the bottom of your screen. Simply type your question into the text area and hit send. Questions will be addressed at the conclusion of the presentation, with the exception of technical questions that can be asked and will be answered real time. Please note that we recommend that you be hardwired when attending this webinar. A Wi-Fi connection may result in lag time in slides updating and graphics loading. Today's webinar includes polling questions. Please feel free to answer these questions when they appear and be sure to click submit so we can include your response, as we will be sharing the results real time during this live event. If you'd like to revisit key sections of today's webinar, it will be available on demand at intelligrated.com/on-the-move approximately 48 hours after this live event. And you'll also receive an email in a couple of days with a link to the recorded event. Now on to the presentation, Leveraging Goods to Person Automation Strategies. Discussing today's topic will be Mario De Cruz, Senior Director, Strategic Planning for Honeywell Intelligrated. Mario is responsible for developing strategies, go-to-market operating plans, and aligning M&A initiatives with the company's global business goals. His specialties include driving revenue, breakthrough initiatives, and market share expansion and growth. A former resident of 8 countries, he has more than 20 years of industry experience in strategic planning. Over his career, he has been responsible for corporate strategy and marketing at organizations that include Huawei Technologies, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, Dell, and IBM. In addition, he has worked as a management consultant at both IBM and PricewaterhouseCoopers. And with that introduction, the webinar will now begin.
Thanks, Tracy, for having me here and for the introduction. Today, I want to talk about how goods-to-person automation strategies can help boost auto volumes, efficiency, and productivity. But before we start, I just want to kind of put through a really quick polling question in terms of what is the level of automation in your distribution center? Is it highly automated with minimum human interaction? Is it highly automated system with minimum human interaction? Or is it manual operations with no automation at all? So I'll give you a couple of seconds to answer that, and we'll see how the results of that polling question. So it looks like a vast majority of people on the slide, they have no automation, mainly highly manual operations, a good percentage with, somewhere in between with medium human interaction. So this is a good webinar that will talk about how we automate the distribution center, and what are the automation strategies that we can adopt. So we all know that e-commerce is exploding. It is growing exponentially, and today we are seeing triple-digit growth in e-commerce, and the expansion is so fast that many operations can't replenish stocks fast enough. Now, the pandemic has also accelerated the e-commerce by 3 to 5 years. As we've talked to retailers, as we've talked to all our customers, they're telling us that they're accelerating plans to implement e-commerce within the distribution centers, as well as within their stores as well. Now, in the US alone, click-to-collect sales is expected to increase by 60% by the end of 2021. Now, whatever doubts we had about this current e-commerce growth, being a passing trend, is no longer valid. Many e-commerce trends being set right now are here to stay. Now, consumer behavior is changing as well. Many distribution centers were originally designed to handle retail replenishment, so sending it directly to the stores. But the direct-to-consumer orders of e-commerce requires handling a large volumes of smaller size orders. But as e-commerce continues to grow, these orders make up a large proportion of the fulfillment workload, challenging both operations as well as with diminishing returns and decreasing efficiency. Now, if you're an omni-channel provider, serving both retail replenishment and direct-to-consumer orders, this means that adapting established fulfillment processes and infrastructure to meet service level demands across both channels, both efficiently and profitably. Now, labor is another challenge that most of the retailers face. Most distribution centers are trying to meet this increasing demand with human labor, but there just aren't enough workers to meet the demand. Now, worker turnover in the industry is more than 33%, which is a significant number, and a large percentage of the workforce is older than 55. Even before the pandemic, there were only enough positions to fill 1 in 6 available positions. So if anyone was worried about a robot taking their job, they can relax. Now, customers are getting used to fast and free delivery. Next day delivery is becoming a standard service level agreement. 56% of online consumers between the ages of 18 and 34 expect same day delivery. And about 72% of consumers say they are unlikely to do business with a vendor again after a poor delivery experience. Industrial and logistics real estate vacancy rates remain near historic lows in 2020. With real estate at a premium, retailers will find it difficult to invest in expanding warehouse floor space. Therefore, making efficient use of floor space is important for retailers as well. So let's jump to another polling question, kind of trying to understand which industry segments represents your business. So are you in manufacturing, 3PL, pharmaceuticals, food and beverage, general merchandise, or any other industry? We'll give it a few seconds for people to answer, and we'll see what results we get. And it looks like majority of the attendees today are in the general merchandise industry, with again another large percentage in manufacturing as well. So let's talk about goods to person order fulfillment, or what we call GTP for short. Right? This offers a solution to pretty much all the challenges that we discussed earlier, whether it was around the growth in e-commerce, whether it was the changes in buyer behavior, the shortage of labor, or the cost of storage. And it's important to note that it's not GTP or goods to person by itself that will help solve all these problems. It's a combination of goods to person with automation strategy, applying the right mix of equipment, processes, and workflow adjustments to handle the high volumes of direct-to-consumer orders with greater speeds and accuracy. So here's how picking works in many fulfillment centers today. It's actually the operator going out to the goods and collecting and picking the goods manually. So a worker walks through the aisles with a paper pick list, selects items needed for one or more orders at a time. And we've seen this as we walk through grocery stores today, right? We've seen people with carts with a number of different totes filling these orders. And it's much like grocery shopping when we go grocery shopping as well, kind of picking it out from a paper pick list and fulfilling the orders. So the operator goods model has some advantages. It is the simplest fulfillment method in the industry. It offers fast response time, short order cycle times, as well as the ability to easily track picker accuracy. However, travel time can cap labor productivity, with workers spending up to half the time walking between pick locations instead of actually picking the item. The operator goods methodology can also deliver diminishing returns when pushing to meet throughput or very high throughput demands. Adding more labor does not necessarily mean more orders fulfilled. For example, scaling to meet 10,000 orders per hour would require additional workers roaming and congesting the same pick aisles, causing individual labor productivity and operational efficiency to drop. The limited vertical reach of pickers also restricts slotting operations, requiring operations to build out rather than up. And basically that leaves a wide horizontal footprint that does not make the most of the available space available in the DC. So here's another polling question. So what is your method of picking orders today? Is it printed paper order sheets with carts, pallets in the aisles, voice-directed picking with carts, pallets, and aisles, pick-to-light systems in a pick module, or a goods-to-person system? So we'll give you a couple of seconds to answer that, and really curious to see what the results are. We'll give it a few seconds more. And it looks a vast majority of attendees or the businesses use voice-directed picking, with carts and pallets in the aisles, and then again, about the same majority is basically has printed paper order sheets. So fairly manual in terms of the way they pick. I think there's a really small percentage, about 12%, who are looking at goods-to-person systems. So this is a really great introduction about goods-to-person systems and how that can really boost, fulfillment, fulfilling orders and throughput as well. So another fulfillment methodology known as pick and pass or zone picking involves employees assigned to a specific zone in a pick area with the responsibility for picking SKUs in that zone. If a single order contains SKUs located in multiple zones, employees pick the necessary SKUs as the order passes through each zone until completion. Now, this workflow requires more sophisticated technology like voice or lights to manage picking process and the conveyors to move product through different zones. Now, zone picking actually allows for greater efficiency and productivity and fulfills more orders in less time. Rather than the pickers walking around through the entire warehouse, they're kind of confined to one area and they pick within that one area. But again, slotting restrictions limit effectiveness as they require a large horizontal footprint and leave the vertical space unused. So now let's talk about goods-to-person workflows. The basic concept is that you automate the movement of goods to a worker who picks and fulfills orders. While this idea isn't new, a high volume of small size e-commerce orders makes the business case for GTP stronger than ever before for many of the operations. Now, one of the game-changing benefits of GTP is the ability to use much more cubic volume, which was initially limited by an employee's reach. Facilities that use these systems are able to store products 20 to 60 feet high, which gives about a 30 to 50% smaller footprint than with a operator-to-goods workflow. This means your operations can build or lease smaller facilities or significantly increase the capacity of an existing one. Another savings that you can see, or another benefit of this, is labor efficiency and cost savings. It helps operators make the most of scarce labor by improving individual productivity and minimizing pick errors. Bringing the products actually to a picker eliminates the travel time that can account for as much as half of a picker's time spent on the floor. High utilization workstations are designed for employee comfort. They offer consistent product flow in a picker's so-called ergonomic golden zone to enable more picks per hour. Furthermore, presenting pickers with a single SKU at a time, combined with the use of fulfillment technologies like voice and light, drives greater levels of accuracy. Now, how do we build a successful GTP system or a goods-to-person system? Reaping the full return on the promise of a GTP fulfillment starts with picking the right system components. So I'll spend the next few minutes kind of giving you a quick overview of what's available today. So before we get into that, let's kind of get another polling question and see what technologies are you considering for automation. So would robotics be an option? Would it be shuttles? Would it be vertical lift modules, mini load cranes, carousels, or is it just basically conveyors and sortation? So take a few seconds and answer, and let's see what results we get. We'll give you a few seconds more to answer, and let's see when the results pop up on the screen. So it looks like a vast percentage of nearly 3/4 of, or 76% are looking at robotics. Again, they're looking at conveyors and sortation as well. And then there's about the same looking at VLM and shuttles as well. So, so robotics seems to be a clear winner in this case when it comes to automation strategies. So let's talk about some of the strategies that we use with a goods-to-person station. So the first one is automated storage and retrieval systems, also known as ASRS. And these are high-density storage systems designed to precisely handle picking and put away without human involvement or direct interaction. In this way, ASRS can improve throughput in operations of any size, from large omni-channel operations to micro-fulfillment centers. And basically, micro-fulfillment centers are mainly back-of-the-store fulfillment. They require a smaller footprint, anywhere between 10 to 15,000 square feet, and they support high-velocity SKUs. And the basic premise behind this is that it brings goods closer to the customer and enables faster delivery time. Now, another thing that we look at is automated shuttles. And these systems come in a variety of different shapes and sizes. Anything from mini load systems to carousels to unit load systems. However, for e-commerce, we find that the strongest business case lies with the shuttle style system, which picks totes from racks and delivers them to workers at picking stations. Now, with enough space, shuttle-based GTP systems can scale as high as necessary. So it enables better use of the volume or the area within a distribution center. Now, this enables operations to design for anticipated growth by communicating growth expectations to a system supplier, as well as planning for future expansion for enough capacity over a multi-year period. This insulates your operations from risking insufficient capacity in the future and spreads out the financial burden of the complete system. At a more immediate level, while GTP systems are typically designed for peak operating and requirements, they can also provide the ability to scale down operations during base periods. For example, an operation may require 10 GTP stations during peak months, but only 5 GTP stations in the remaining months. The fulfillment center can then deactivate the other 5 GTP stations when not needed, reducing labor requirements, conserving energy, and saving system components from unnecessary wear and tear. Now, another technology that is gaining significant ground is autonomous mobile robots, or AMRs for short. And we did see in the survey that, a vast majority, nearly 79%, were considering robots as one of the automation technologies or strategies. Now, these free-rolling bots can use many of the same technologies being developed for self-driving cars. So, for example, they use vision and mapping technologies to perceive and navigate warehouse environments without requiring changes to the facility's infrastructure. They are also smart enough to recognize and avoid everything from people to any equipment or any obstruction within the distribution center. The advantage of mobile robots is that they can be inserted into an operation with little or no new infrastructure, requiring only a short integration period to learn about their surroundings. Now, another way you can improve efficiency or add efficiency is by including voice and light systems. Now, the voice or light system will direct a picker to an item, will provide information about the number of quantities to be picked as well. So it's in the case of light, it's more of a visual system. But overall, one of the strongest GTP systems leverages each one of these options we've discussed for maximum overall output, balancing the workload to avoid congestion as well as throughput bottlenecks. Now, Honeywell Intelligrated also has a software suite that is called the Momentum software suite that interfaces with Honeywell equipment as well as MHE equipment from other vendors. The warehouse execution system, or the WES system as it's known as, from Honeywell is modular, and it can be scaled based upon a customer requirements. For example, there are different modules that can be chosen by a customer depending upon their needs. So it could range from anything from an e-com picking module to an omni-channel module to MFC, or micro fulfillment or grocery fulfillment, or AMR picking. So it's an extremely flexible software suite, and it enables the customer to pick and choose modules and build the system based upon how they plan to design their warehouse. Which brings us to a GTP station. So whatever automation strategy you choose, goods end up at an operator picking station as shown in the diagram. There, each order can be picked really quickly, efficiently, and they can be consolidated as well. So as you can see in the diagram, the two blue totes are where the goods actually show up at an operator station. And the ones at the bottom, the brown ones, are either boxes or totes where you consolidate the order. And they are light systems in this GTP station, which will direct you where to pick, what order to pick or what item to pick and where to place the item. The tote can also be subdivided if they are smaller items, and light systems will direct you to whatever item you need to pick. Now, right on top, you can see this little workstation out there, which would actually give you even a diagram of the item to be picked, so you can confirm that you're picking the right item. And then it's flexible enough to make changes based upon the number of items you need to pick as well. So, and once you pick it, you push a button, and the next tote shows up at the operator station. Now the system is flexible enough. The base system comes with 4 put-to locations, but there's an option of adding an additional 6 more put-to locations on 3 on either side of it. So if you've got a number of orders to be consolidated, you can expand your system as well. So you can scale the system with up to 3 modules per side. Now GTP isn't just for distribution centers. It is for large distribution centers. They can be used in a micro fulfillment environment. They can be used in smaller DCs as well. But as e-commerce continues to occupy a larger piece of the contemporary retail puzzle, fulfillment operations must adapt to handle increasing volumes of smaller size orders. And as businesses look for the most efficient method to handle this new fulfillment reality, goods-to-person stations or systems, GTP systems, offer a solution to provide the throughput, the scalability, and accuracy required to efficiently handle these complex order systems. Now, Honeywell also offers a decant, or a replenishment station. And this gives the ability for operations to fulfill or to basically replenish items as the inventory runs low. Again, it's an extremely flexible system. You can pick from boxes or from pallets, and basically put it into one of these blue little totes, and the totes will actually go and replenish the items in the ASRS station. And again, we've got a flexible workstation up on front, so that can, which will give you a diagram of what item needs to be picked, how many items need to be picked as well. And then in case, like say for example, if a box is damaged or certain items are damaged before replenishment, The workstation also gives the operator an option to reduce the number of items or to change the number of items that are actually going into inventory. So at any time, you have an accurate count of how many items are actually in your inventory system. So basically, goods to person systems, just to sum it up, helps overcome many of the key e-commerce challenges. The demand for increased volume and throughput and accuracy, a large number of SKUs, the changing buyer behavior, the labor challenges, as well as the cost of warehouse space. But the basic premise behind this and what Honeywell offers is an extremely flexible modular GTP station as well as a replenishment station that can bring items to an operator and can enable faster fulfillment. So with that, I'll turn it over and see if there are any questions or, and I'd be happy to take questions as well.
Great. Thank you, Mario, for a great presentation. And as Mario mentioned, we will now move on to the question and answer portion of our event. And as a reminder to our attendees that you may ask an online question in the Q&A feature along the bottom of your screen. Mario, we do have quite a few questions that have come in, so I will go ahead and get started with what we have. The first question is really basic. What if a shuttle stops working?
So in the event if that does happen, the software will direct other shuttles to store the incoming containers. And if a container was being retrieved, the order will transfer to a shuttle in another aisle that has accessibility to the same SKU. So the software, the Momentum software is extremely flexible, and it will basically direct the order to another shuttle.
Okay. Next question is, how does the operator know what item and number to pick from the totes?
So as I'd shown earlier, there's a monitor mounted on top of each picking station. And that screen shows the location within the tote to pick from. It gives you an idea of the quantity of items that need to be picked. It also gives you a photo of the item for confirmation and directs them to which shipping container to place the item. Now, there are also light systems that help direct the operator to the compartment in the tote to pick from, and lights by the shipping container that lead them to the correct location.
Okay. Next question. How much labor reduction can I expect from my current operation?
So that really depends upon your current operation, what processes, what level of automation you have, in your current system. And if we can definitely get our OSD team to kind of come in and they can kind of do a study and they can basically kind of come up with, or they can give you a much more accurate prediction of labor reduction. And again, it would be dependent on each system and, on each environment within the DC.
Okay. Okay, so this is an interesting question from someone that must already have a GTP system in place. The question is, the number of picking errors is going up at a couple of our picking centers. Will the number of picking mistakes go down?
So normally a GTP system has fewer mistakes than an associates walking aisles and picking from bins. Only the proper inventory tote is in front of a person at the picking station instead of several containers of the shelf. So as we saw in the drawing or the diagram of a GTP station, there were basically two totes that were popping up, with the items to pick from. So there are fewer number of totes rather than a person walking up and down an aisle trying to find the right tote to pick from. And then the monitor displays a photo of the item to be picked. So it allows the person who's actually picking the item or the GTP operator to check whether they're picking the right item as well as displaying the quantity. So it would display the quantity as well. So it kind of gives you an indication of the description of the item as well as the quantity to be picked. And location for order boxes have a light to show the person where the item needs to be placed. So if you recall at the bottom, there were those 4 brown totes or boxes. So the light system actually lights up and shows you where exactly to place the order. So overall, it gives you the ability to confirm the item you're picking, the quantity you're picking, and it also gives you an indication where to place the item as well. So the number of mistakes definitely goes down rather than a person walking through the aisles trying to pick these orders or consolidate these orders.
Okay. Next question. Let's see here. How do I get my products into the totes?
So Honeywell Intelligrated has decant stations specifically designed for loading totes. Or the picking station, which we showed earlier, can be used for loading totes as well. Now that depends if there's a time available outside of the order picking operation, and you could use your picking station as well, your GTP station as well to replenish your goods. But if you need to, and if there's fast moving inventory or high velocity SKUs, the decant stations are a really good option as well.
Okay. Let's see here. Next question is, can I add an e-com picking operation in my existing store fulfillment DC?
The short answer is yes. So we have placed systems as small as a single aisle into a DC by removing an aisle of pallet storage. So the amount of inventory, the required rate of item picking will need to be reviewed before we determine the correct system size. But it's an extremely flexible system. It can go as I said earlier, it can go as small as a single aisle, or we can expand based upon the requirements, the amount of inventory, the required rate of picking as well. But it can be integrated into an existing store fulfillment DC.
Okay, I have quite a few more questions, so I'll just keep plugging along here.
Okay.
Okay, what if we install a system now and our orders outgrow it faster than we plan?
So an ASR system can easily be added in any orientation if there's a requirement for more inventory storage. It's extremely flexible, as well as picking stations. You can grow the number of picking stations you need if the rate of orders has increased. So as your operations increase, as you start getting more into e-commerce, you start receiving more orders, there's a lot more fulfillment to do. The system provides that flexible, scalable approach where you can add more to your ASRS systems as well as add more picking stations as required. And again, it's flexible, as I mentioned earlier, it's flexible enough that you can add picking stations, during your peak operations or during certain seasons. And then if it's not required during, a low time, like when, beyond a certain time or beyond certain seasons, you can always, deactivate those picking stations so that you can conserve energy, you can conserve on labor, as well as unnecessary wear and tear on the systems.
All right. Next question is, we are adding more inventory at my site, but we don't have the floor space to put more shelves for picking. Will an ASRS system fit?
Yes, and that's one of the advantages of an ASRS system, right? If you look at an ASRS system, they're typically about, anywhere between 30 to 35% more, they make 30 to 35% more efficient use of floor space than an actual pick module. So depending upon on the building size and how much inventory is being added, an ASRS system will most likely increase storage capacity inside a current building. And again, it gives you the advantage of going higher rather than going out, where a person is actually picking. So that's an added advantage where you can go anywhere between 20 to 60 feet in height, and it gives you a much more efficient use of your warehouse space.
Okay. Let's see here. Next question is, some of our products are pretty small. Can there be more than one SKU in a tote?
Yes, so totes can be subdivided depending upon the size of the item and the quantity that is needed to meet order demand. Um, so using SKU data, uh, the software will determine how many of each item will fit into that particular segment of a tote as you've kind of made different compartments or compartmentalized that tote. And again, that information will be displayed on the monitor. So the operator can count the proper quantity and place them into the tote.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, here's another one. How heavy are the totes once filled if we need to pick them up for some reason? Some people cannot lift a lot of weight.
So we can definitely work with you on the maximum weight. Typically, a tote weight is limited anywhere between 40 to 70 pounds. And the software will also use the weight of item that is being picked, from the SKU data. And you can actually limit the number of products that are being loaded into a tote. So it is kept under, a limit or under the maximum limit. So again, the software is extremely flexible. You can limit the number of items so that you don't go beyond a certain weight, which would, cause an injury to any one of the workers. And then also, if there are some maximum weight restrictions, or there's a need for a larger weight, we can definitely work with you to kind of come up with or design a system based upon that.
Okay. Another question came in, and that is, are the cross belt sorters used for these processes?
I would have to go back and check on that. If we can get back to you on that question.
Yeah, we can
Yep.
absolutely do that. All right, let me just look to see if any other questions have come in, and I don't see, and oh, I think we're getting another question just coming in right now. Let's see here. Okay, I do have another question that just came in, and we've got time, so I'll go ahead and ask you that. Let's see, what are the best solutions for easily damaged and big, bulky, or non-conveyable products?
So if they're big, bulky products, we've got other products in our portfolio that can meet that requirement, and as well as the weight requirement that I mentioned earlier. Again, it would depend upon what type of products need to be picked, how big they are, and we can get our OSD team, or we can get our experts to kind of work with you on these larger items that normally don't fit into a tote, and we can kind of design a system based upon that.
So really, it's sort of a case-by-case situation. Correct. For that, I guess.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Well, that does wrap up all of our questions. And I just want to say thank you to all of our attendees for their participation. And thank you, Mario, for a really informative presentation. And also just to remind everyone that within approximately 48 hours after this live event, you'll be able to access this presentation on demand at intelligrated.com/on-the-move. And you'll also receive an email with a link to the on-demand presentation, as well as with a link to our white paper, Automate Order Picking and Inventory Replenishment. So on behalf of Honeywell Intelligrated, thank you for attending today's On the Move webinar. We hope you can join us for our robotic webinar series, 4 Ways Smart Robotics Are Streamlining the DC, which is starting next month. Registration information will be available soon on our website at intelligrated.com/on-the-move. So thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon.